Hello, Mr. Basil. How are we doing?
Very well. How are you, Alex?
I'm very good, sir. I'm very good. Very good. Okay, so this week we've got a fairly controversial film, I would call it, that we've seen at the cinema. It's called Women Talking. It's Sarah Polley's latest film. It's based on a book that is based on a true event. Again, it's in the cinemas at the moment. It's filled with really good actors, and it's really, I mean, very well acted, very grim. They're in a highly religious community where they are basically subdued or controlled by the men in the same community. And because it's such a religious community, they are not very educated. Their only education is religion, and
Yeah.
they have been consistently abused, sexually abused by the men in their community, without them, with the explanation so far that it's either been demons or their own imagination.
Yes.
And this is
Yes.
the moment in the beginning of the film when they actually find out that one of the men was actually, well, the men were actually doing this abuse. And that just
Yes.
literally throws everything into the air. And now they have to decide, well, between three options, isn't it, Baz? One is, what was stay
Uh,
and do
so, so,
nothing.
so stay and do nothing. Stay and fight, which is a bit ambiguous because I don't really know what that means. Does it mean with weapons or does it mean with your own voice?
Yeah,
And then the other thing was leave, and
correct. Leave the
and
community. And this is in
yeah.
2010, let's remember. So, yeah,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. So at first you think, oh, it's 1890 or it might be like 1910 in America, but there's a scene where there's a pickup truck going through the village saying, "Please walk out of your houses for the 2010 census." So you think,
Census.
okay, so that confirms it's like an Amish community. Maybe I was thinking Amish because of the lack of technology and what they're wearing. Um, but
Correct.
yeah, it's this film. So what you just simply said, it's a group of women in a village who are debating whether to leave a village to stop being attacked by these men, or they're gonna stay and fight, whatever that means. But when I was watching it, like great cast. Great cast.
Yeah,
It looked
yeah,
like a really
yeah.
interesting film. It looks like a film where that's bound to have good dialogue and stuff. But
Correct.
straight from the get go, it's a little bit bizarre the way the story is constructed. So, for instance, the men doing the attacks, I wasn't sure whether they were part of a village or not. Um, apparently one of them is arrested, and it never really shows that one of them gets arrested. And because of this figure that is arrested, one of the men doing the attacks, all of the men in the village decide to post his bail for his release from the prison. But again, the prison is not in the village, it's somewhere else. So it's like, well, if all these men are corrupt and are trying to excuse a rapist and they're going to go bail him out, who's arrested him in the first place? Who dobbed him in?
Yeah,
Who
yeah, yeah.
grassed him in? And then but then all the men, again, this is all in the story. All the men from the village go to post for bail. Now, why does it need every single man in the village to go and post bail? It just doesn't really work for me. So it already makes the transcript a bit confusing. But anyway, this is the storyline. So all the women gather in the barn. They have about 24 hours, 48 hours to decide what they want to do to stop these horrific attacks going. So how did you think it played out with
So,
the dialogue, Alex?
I mean, it's like one of those plays, like you said, the film that looks like a play, because most of this, the discussions that they have, is within a barn. And there's
Yeah.
only one actor, male actor, that is Ben Whishaw, I think is
Who's
his
good?
name.
He's good.
That
I
it
like
takes is
him,
very
yeah.
good, and it just takes minutes and of what is being discussed. And it is a very fair point. What the issues that they have to discuss is they're very heavy and very dependent, because these women have never seen the outside world. Let's call it outside the community where they live. There are children among them, both girls and boys, and they're very, they're not as educated, like I said, because none of them knows how to write or read, um, and they're all shocked and surprised by the fact that their own God, because that's one of the main issues, is why has God that we believe in and we sacrifice for has allowed this to happen, has allowed for the men to be abusive towards us.
Yes, yes.
So
There's a
that is
there's a
one of the main
heavy
theme.
there's a
And then the
heavy religious
responsibility of
context,
leaving
isn't there?
everything behind. Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
they're thinking, then we have to choose, we have to allow the children to choose if they want to leave this world or not.
Yes.
And then that's a responsibility moving forward. What do we do with the children once we don't know what the outside world looks like? and then there's discussions about the men and what if they're not all guilty of the crimes, and it's just
of course,
one
and
or two.
are the men victims of their own society? So yes, fair enough, the men made the society and what it is, and the objectification of women almost. But then again, the men themselves who are committing the sins, this is an idea that's proposed in the films, are actually victims of their own accord anyway, because they are now sinners. And they've orchestrated that themselves. These are all kind of interesting things to talk about. But as I said, if it was framed in a better way, maybe a better storyline that was more, maybe a bit simpler, I think it would have been good to get those women in a room, in an environment, in a time span that kind of makes sense. But the way it was all thrown together is a little bit throws you off. But anyway, we'll never mind that.
I mean,
but you say there's a heavy like religious context as well to the discussion. Is all of this about being accepted into the kingdom of heaven and stuff like that? And they'll only get that if they forgive their attackers, which it sounds crazy, but that's what part of the arguments are. But what did you think of politically the director was trying to say in this film?
That's what struck me, because there are some literally scenes that have stuck with me. One of them is I felt it was a bit, the message of the film was a bit one-sided. There's no point, at no point you want to see the reasons, the men's side of the story. So it's just, this is how it is, and the men are at fault for everything that has happened here. There's even a sense of the way it's framed, that scene. I probably told you about this. There's a scene when in the background there's the narrator, one of the women, speaking about the potential generational effect of these boys growing in this community and being thought to be abusive as a normal thing. But the way it's filmed, what you're seeing on the screen is like these boys playing, and they're like distant, and the camera is distant, as if there's like these specimens that will become dangerous, or are dangerous now, or are the seed of danger. And the way it was treated is like, why is it not a bit more equally displayed, the discussion? And also there's moments repeatedly, actually about 2 or 3 times, when the only man that is taking notes in that group is being shut down if he has an opinion straight away, because he wants to say something to participate, and he's like, you're just here to take minutes, don't say anything. So
August,
it felt a little bit.
That's his name. Yeah. So yeah. I know what you're saying. That particular scene with it was kind of like villainizing the young boys. There's like a scenic shot, and it does quite good, interesting close-up shots of their faces in the school. But with the kind of soundtrack that's going on behind and the narration, it's like we're looking at future predators, and whether it was meant to have that impact or not, whether that's what the director wanted or not, it has the effect of making you think that, and whether that's the intended response or not, you think these boys are going to be predators one day. And I don't know if it sends out a good message, and also I'm not really sure what the sort of message that the film's trying to give out. I think it's trying to convey that obviously the world is very dangerous for women, and maybe in that particular scenario in the film it is, but I don't think it's a positive message for the film. And I also don't think it's reality as well. Yes. I think it's kind of the opinion of the director. But it's been getting good reviews, isn't it? Which I'm surprised about. So
if you step back a little bit, I think the issue is, or the issue that I find with the film, not with the message, is the fact that literally, probably in the first few seconds of the film, it says this is a fictional story by a female or something like that. Is a big massive. Instead of based on a true story, it says this is a fiction imaginated by a female or something like that.
It actually uses the phrase, doesn't it? This is a figment of a wild imagination from a female. It's like almost making a joke about what the attackers are saying,
which is fine. So it's setting up that this is fiction. So when you present a fictional story that is not true, you have to show the whole story. So it's like the rules of the game. This event, this massive event has happened, which is this abuse towards women. We need to see the other side of why has this happened, but you don't see that. You just have to believe that that's the message, that this happened. It's like almost like a sci-fi film. We have to set down the ground rules of where this world is and what this conflict is all about. But you only see one side of the conflict. You only see yes, very well acted, and how these women were abused, but you don't see the reason behind the men's actions. I'm not trying to justify that the actions are incorrectly wrong.
Not. Yeah,
but there might be something that has impacted them. Is there something wrong with the religion that they're learning?
Yeah, it might be a religious problem. See, this is the thing. I think you've just hit the nail on the head, because I think that the message is coming that the men that are committing these crimes are simply doing it because they are men. It's got nothing to do with their upbringing. It's got nothing to do with the religious context. All right, there was no mention of that. But these could be factors that it could be for. There's no reason for it. They would just say they are men, therefore we must leave the village or we must fight them. There
might be a important figure within the group of men that is
who's making them do
like
this, like a Charles Manson type of figure in a cult sort of thing. But another thing is why it doesn't add up if that's what the message of the film is, which is men are dangerous or something. Why it doesn't add up is because one of the characters in the film, this Ben Wearshaw that is taking the minutes down, he's obviously quite a charismatic, humble guy who I think wanted to join them at the end. That was the impression I was getting. Wanted to join the women and be part of what they were doing, but was almost kind of told he can't because he is a man, and that just doesn't make sense, because this character is clearly quite humble and he's interested. He has a love interest in one of the women that are in the meeting, and I think he's being ousted because he is simply a man, which I don't know if you got that from that character, but that seemed to be a little bit illogical to me. Because that just goes to show that just because he is a man, clearly he's got a good heart in him. Why can't he be part of the group?
He was a teacher. His responsibility was to stay behind and teach those kids not to be predators.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's fair.
But that's not. I mean, the choice should still be his and what he decides to do.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, he was one of the girls was pregnant with him, and
yes.
He had the choice. Yeah, didn't have the choice as a father of that child to go with the community. But it's the better parts of this film is the acting. First of all, I'm totally surprised why this hasn't been nominated for acting Oscars. It is nominated for best film, so that's a strong nomination. So it's a very well put together film. I'm not going to deny that. It's all very well filmed, very well cinematography is off the charts and all of it. Also, I think the adapted screenplay is also nominated. This is nominated for. But discussion can go on for another 45 minutes.
No. What I'm saying, look, this is going to be one of our longer videos, isn't it? And that maybe that's the point of this film. Exactly. I mean, if there's one thing you can say, it got us talking.
Absolutely.
But for me,
we got men talking too, not just women.
Not just the women talking. But for me, it left me with a kind of bad taste in my mouth. I felt like I was watching something that it was almost a bit pretentious. It was like it's meant to be significant. It's meant to be mystical and a great story. But I just came away feeling a bit like what's the word? Hollow. Like it wasn't. I'm not watching something fantastic here. It's just something that's trying to be fantastic. But maybe a second
women
viewing.
Talking. It's a good film. It's in cinemas. I enjoyed. I went for the actors. I mean, if you look online, just the list of actors, impressive, controversial, but I think it's
worth a watch. Worth a watch. Make your own mind up. Yeah.
Just for the discussion, exactly.
Yes. It's thought provoking. Which is good enough for me. So yeah.
All right, sir. I shall talk to you next week.
Take care, Alex.
See you later. Bye.